you.
Now, we have a lot of people from your home state here from Minnesota.
All right. We're in Minnesota.
Now, you're not using Jesse the Body anymore. What do you want to be called now?
Governor.
Governor is good. All right, Governor, Governor.
Governor.
I mean, did you ever think you'd go literally, like this is a collector item now, like from this to the governor's mansion? I mean.
Well, actually, the royalties from that got me my first Porsche.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good to know.
There you go. You got about 6, right?
Well, no, I'm not a Porsche guy, but I've got some old cars. I've got a lot of old cars. Because we're both Harley guys. We've ridden together years and years ago. If I had known back then you were going to be governor. That was I mean, it's so amazing to me. Let me start with your name. Now, what is your real name? I know it's not Jesse Ventura.
Well, my real name is James Janos.
Right.
Janos in the old country. I'm Slovak.
Oh, okay. Now, how did you pick Jesse Ventura?
Well, it was kind of a unique situation because when you get into wrestling, you get to name yourself.
Right.
And I always liked the name Jesse, and I was going to be a bleach blonde from California because everyone hates bleach blondes from California.
Right.
You know, throughout the rest of the country.
Right.
And so I just started matching Jesse up with a map. And when I saw Jesse Ventura, the light went off, and there it was. I knew I had.
And what happened with the blonde thing? It didn't work out too good.
Well, I like it better now because now when I get up, all I got to do is brush my teeth, and I know how good looking I am. I didn't have to do what Gary did back there. I mean, they got Gary back there working on his hair, doing this, doing that. And, I didn't have to bother with it.
Will you show him how to point a finger? Will you show him how you do it?
Why don't you show Jay your finger?
Which one?
This finger right here.
Never mind that.
See what he does.
Oh.
No.
When did you decide you were going to run? At what point did you say, you know, I'm going to make a run for the governor?
Well, we talked about it a year ago, actually in my barn.
Like, you say we. Who is we?
Well, these were myself and Dean Barkley, a guy that ran for Congress and the Senate with the Reform Party and got us major party status in the state of Minnesota. And then we actually met in my horse barn, and we talked about it there because we figure, you know, in politics you ought to be good next to that stuff, you know, the horse.
Yeah. I mean, did you have a problem with people taking you seriously?
Yeah, we actually announced in January, and the press kind of poo-pooed it and thought, you know, Jesse's going to run, but they don't realize I was mayor of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, the 6th largest city.
Right.
And so I did have experience governing before, and we always believed and we felt that if we could get to in a 3-way race, if we could get to the mid-20s by election time, see, in Brooklyn Park, when I ran there, it was a city of 56,000 people, and only 2,500 voted the election before I ran.
Wow.
The election I ran, 2,500 went to 20,000.
Wow.
And so we knew that if we could get a higher voter turnout and we're in the mid-20s in a 3-person race, we had a shot.
Now, was there an issue? What was your issue that you picked?
Well, the issue in Minnesota was simple. We just got through with a $4 billion surplus that the Democrats and Republicans spent. And I said that money should have been given back.
Right.
Because that's above and beyond what they legislate for.
Right.
You know, and that money should go back. And not only that, then, they also made a record-setting billion-dollar bonding bill.
Yeah.
And so I realized somebody had to bring a little common sense and logic to government, which is generally an oxymoron.
Right.
When you talk about government.
Now, did you need experience? I mean, what were your qualifications that made you say, hey, you know?
Well, I believe that I'm qualified. It says all you got to do is be over 25 and live in the state a year.
Well, yeah.
That's what it says at the Secretary of State's office.
Right.
And I believe that's what the founders of our country had in mind, Jay.
Right.
Not necessarily these career politicians. I believe everyone, in essence, should be qualified.
Right.
When you strip it all away, we all should be qualified for public service.
I mean, do you feel a tremendous amount of pressure like, oh, my God, I won. Now what?
Oh, yeah. But it was a little less because it initially happened when I won mayor.
Yeah.
You know, and so this one was a little bit, but it's an honor. I mean, the people of Minnesota have basically made me the most powerful man in the state. So remember that when you come there.
Right. But is there more pressure in this than in other things that you've done?
No, not really, because if I go back to the days I was a Navy SEAL, I mean, I got 34 parachute jumps out of an airplane.
And a Navy SEAL, you have to be, it's not just physical, you have to be smart as well, too.
Oh,
That's like the top
Well,
of...
you're working with color-coded demolition wire. You hook the wrong wire up,
right.
You don't have a governor. You know, if the wrong one hooks up to the wrong, you know. So, no, you have to be very intelligent. You also have to be daring. I've dove 212 feet under the water. I've swam in shark-infested waters at night. And things of that nature, so that's defying death.
Yeah,
this
well,
is not
nothing
defying
till you get
death.
to Washington.
Well, I don't want to go to Washington. By the way, I got to lead the conversation here a moment.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that I am also a volunteer football coach.
I know that.
And my Champlain Park football team is in the finals at the Metrodome this Friday, and I had to tell defensive tackle Craig O'Hearn. I had to say his name because he told me he'd give me $10 if I did.
Really? There you go. That's honesty in government. There you go. Well, how much did you spend? Let me ask you about this. How much? What did your campaign wind up costing?
We never went into deficit spending one dime. We know nothing right now. We ended up spending roughly $400,000.
Right.
And the other candidacies, if you combine them, I've heard totals as high as 10 to 12 million.
Wow. Wow.
So.
Now, the press just went nuts. I mean, here's a copy of, there you go, this Time magazine, and there's a Minnesota issue on the cover of Time magazine. Was it just nuts? I mean, did your house, were you just inundated with
it? It was crazy. I mean, my life has been turned really upside down because of this. The press was lined up in the vans all the way down my road. We had to have security to keep them out. I went to coach my football team, and you thought it was a Super Bowl. You know, because they got all these vans out there with the big antennas going up, and 30 guys meet me at the field, and, you know, I had to have my security people keep them off the field so we can coach football and move on here. But, yeah, the press has been wild. We went out to the National Governors Convention, and normally they said 8 to 10 press go out there. Right. There was 120. And that was just the East Coast. Now I've been out here on the West Coast, and you can call it 240.
Now you're selling these T-shirts. Some of the people in the audience have these on. It says, "My governor can beat up your governor." What's this all about?
Well, I'll just say this. I think I can go on the record and say if you were to lock any governor in the cage with me, we know Minnesota's governor'd win. So no matter what.
Well, let me ask you something. Are you going to become a career politician? You going to run for president?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. First of all, one of my opponents, I criticized this opponent because he had just ran for mayor again for a second term, and in less than a year started running for governor. I've made a 4-year commitment to the state of Minnesota that I'm going to be the governor. Plus, I'll tell you why personally. You ever look at the president? When they get elected, right, they look so young and all this. And 4 years later, they look like they've aged 25 years. And,
it's so much sex, that'll do that.
Yeah, sex will do that to you. Yeah, I suppose. No, that's not it. If you've seen my wife, and I'll tell you what.
And she's a beautiful woman.
Yeah, not only that, but you ought to be locked up with her for a minute or two.
Hey, I'll take you up on it. Hey, yeah.
No, I don't need to look for an intern. Rest assured.
Well, good for you.
No, not
Jesse, congratulations.